$4.8 billion in retroactive checks are currently being sent out to Social Security recipients? That's right. Billions of dollars are being distributed as retroactive payments. Money that some Social Security beneficiaries may not even realize they're eligible for. The Social Security Administration, SSA, recently announced this massive payout. But what exactly does this mean for you? How do you know if you're eligible for a piece of that $14.8 billion? And most importantly, what can you do right now to ensure you get the payment you're owed? In this video, I'll break down the details of these retroactive checks and give you all the information you need to make sure you don't miss out. The concept of retroactive payments in Social Security is not new, but it's certainly one that doesn't always get the attention it deserves. Retroactive checks are payments sent to people who may not have received the full amount of benefits they were supposed to get due to errors, delayed increases, or other complications in the Social Security system. The SSA has been working hard to correct these issues and, as a result, millions of people are getting significant back payments in the form of these retroactive checks. And while you might be thinking that you already receive your Social Security payments on time and in full, there's a chance you could be entitled to retroactive funds you didn't know about. So let's dive into the details. The first thing to understand is why retroactive payments are being sent out in the first place. Retroactive checks are typically issued when there's been a delay or mistake in the calculation of a person's Social Security benefits. This could happen for a variety of reasons. Maybe your benefits were adjusted incorrectly, or you missed out on a scheduled payment increase. The SSA has now stepped in to make sure these errors are corrected and that eligible individuals receive the full benefits they're owed. It's not just about small amounts either. These retroactive payments can total substantial amounts, which means a nice chunk of change could be on the way to you. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I qualify for these retroactive checks? Well, that's the big question. The answer isn't as simple as just waiting for the check to arrive in your mailbox. In fact, there are specific criteria that must be met in order for you to qualify for a retroactive payment. These payments are being sent out to people who had their Social Security benefits delayed or underpaid in the past. This might include those who were eligible for Social Security but had their payments delayed due to administrative errors, or those whose benefits were adjusted after they began receiving them. The SSA has been working through these issues, correcting the payment amounts, and sending retroactive checks to those impacted. If you're someone who has had their benefits delayed or received an incorrect amount in the past, there's a chance you'll be one of the people receiving this retroactive payment. But there's a catch. Just because you qualify for Social Security doesn't automatically mean you'll get a retroactive check. These payments are typically issued based on specific circumstances that affect a person's payment history. For example, if your benefits were delayed because of an error in your account or a processing mistake, you might be eligible for retroactive payments. Similarly, if you were due a raise in your benefit amount that was delayed or not properly reflected in your payments, the SSA is working to correct that now and issue those back payments. One important thing to note is that these retroactive checks are not always automatically issued. In some cases, individuals may need to take action to ensure they receive the payment they're entitled to. For example, you may need to update your contact information with the SSA if they've been having trouble reaching you, or you may need to file a formal request to have your payment history reviewed. It's important to understand that you're not just passively waiting for the check to arrive. You might need to take a few proactive steps to make sure you're on the list for these retroactive payments. So, how do you know if you're eligible for this payout? The first thing you should do is check your Social Security records. If you're not sure how to do that, it's actually pretty simple to access your account online through the SSA's website. Once you log in, you can review your payment history, see if there are any discrepancies, and check whether you've missed out on any increases or payments. If you notice something off, don't panic. This is where the retroactive payments come into play. The SSA has been actively working to identify individuals whose benefits were miscalculated or delayed, and they're now issuing corrections in the form of retroactive checks. But what if you're unsure if you qualify for a retroactive payment? Well, there's good news. The SSA is being very proactive in sending out these checks, so even if you don't actively check your records, the SSA will notify you if you're due a retroactive payment. However, it's still a good idea to keep an eye on your account and make sure there are no errors. If there's something you're concerned about, don't hesitate to contact the SSA directly and request a review of your payment history. You may be wondering how much money these retroactive checks will be. Well, the amount varies depending on the situation. Some people might receive a few $100s, while others could be looking at a much larger payout. The total amount of retroactive payments being sent out this year is a massive $14.8 billion. And that's no small sum. For some, this could be a life-changing amount of money, especially if they've been underpaid or had their payments delayed for months or even years. This is why it's so important to stay informed and make sure you're getting the payments you're owed. Now, here's something you'll want to know. There's one critical factor that could impact whether or not you receive your retroactive payment, and it's related to how you've been filing your Social Security paperwork. If you've had any issues with your paperwork, such as missing documents or incomplete forms, it could delay or even prevent you from receiving these retroactive payments. If you think you're eligible for a retroactive check but haven't received one yet, it's worth double-checking your filing history to make sure everything is in order. This is something the SSA will be reviewing as they process the payments, so staying on top of your documents is crucial. But don't worry, you're not alone in this process. The SSA is providing plenty of resources and guidance to help beneficiaries get the payments they deserve. If you think you should have received a retroactive check and haven't, you can reach out to the SSA for clarification. This is one of those situations where a little bit of effort on your part could result in a significant financial boost. Make sure to take full advantage of the opportunities available to you, and if you're not sure whether you're due for a retroactive payment, don't hesitate to reach out to the SSA. You could be one of the many individuals receiving a check that could change your life for the better. So, keep an eye out for any communication from the SSA, check your records, and ensure you're not missing out on the $14.8 billion that's being sent out in retroactive payments.